Hello to all my dear manga followers. I hope you're all doing great. Before we start, I want to give a special shout out to everyone who commented on the previous video, especially to Leonard Dawkins-P20, who was the first to leave a comment. Alright, let's continue with this exciting recap. That same afternoon, while Kim was enjoying an iced coffee, a memory suddenly came to mind. The blonde girl in front of him was the same one he had seen with Abby outside the classroom. It felt like such a small world. He also noticed that his friend was looking at him directly, and he wondered if she had figured out what he did that day. Then, the girl asked him a slightly nervous question, wanting to know if they had met somewhere before. Kim, still a bit uneasy, replied that she must have been confusing him with someone else. Although the girl was almost certain she had seen him before, Kim was convinced she wouldn't be able to remember. Yet, in his mind, he was more curious about how to get the girl's phone numbers, since he had never tried anything like that before. At that moment, the girl shyly admitted that she thought he was really handsome. Kim didn't know how to respond to her confession, as he was still considering how to play his cards right to at least get one phone number. Time went by, and they found themselves playing a game called The Liar, where you had to explain a keyword and figure out who was lying about not knowing it. Kim was having a great time and thought this must be what university life was like. Just then, Nayoon asked him to go outside with her to buy some ice cream. Although Kim found it a bit odd, he agreed. Once outside, Nayoon mentioned that he didn't handle his drinks very well, something Kim didn't even remember, although he knew he had had more than just a few drinks. It turned out that Nayoon had used the ice cream as an excuse to rescue him from drinking more. She expected Kim to be grateful since she thought walking around was better than forcing him to drink more. While they were walking, Nayoon stumbled a lot, and Kim held her by the shoulder, pulling her close and asking if she was okay. He noticed she had been unsteady since they left, so he suggested they sit down for a moment. This made Nayoon blush because of Kim's concern. In the end, she surprised him by giving him a kiss. Caught off guard, Kim dropped the bag of ice creams. When she pulled away, she admitted that she wasn't normally like this. However, Kim was lost in his thoughts, confused about how he could have two missions at the same time. This time, his task was to pray with Nayoon before a minute was up, even though there was no reward. However, there would be a penalty if he failed. The chalice would lose its shine forever. Nayoon assured him that she was serious, and Kim believed her, though she didn't realize he was using a special ability. Nayoon was anxious, worried someone might see them since they were praying in a nearby alley. She thought Kim was a genuinely good person, which drove her crazy because of her darker nature. Nervously, she asked Kim what they would do if someone walked by, or if he was in a hurry. Kim tried to calm her down by saying that no one would pass by at that hour. Internally, he felt guilty because his real motivation was to complete the mission. He managed to finish the task, but it meant missing out on an interesting place he wanted to visit. He was also a bit nervous about someone seeing them pray, so he asked Nayoon to keep quiet while he read the Bible faster. At that moment, he thought about looking for holy water, but a new mission appeared. He had to embarrass the girl before purifying her soul to complete the task. Kim showed her a yoga pose that made her feel embarrassed at the thought of someone seeing them praying in that position. Thanks to this, the mission was a success. Still, Kim wondered why he hadn't leveled up yet, although he suspected he had progressed quite a bit the day before. Just then, Nayoon got his attention by saying someone was watching them. Both were left speechless, shocked at being caught in the middle of a prayer session. Kim received a bonus for experience points, which allowed him to level up. They returned to the group, and their friends immediately asked why they took so long since the ice cream had already melted. She then mentioned that she would like to go out with him to get more ice cream, but Seo interrupted, saying it wasn't possible since the dorm curfew was approaching, and they needed to head back. In his mind, Kim didn't understand what she meant by curfew and was unsure of what to do since he hadn't managed to get any phone numbers during the group meeting. Just then, Seo apologized to Kim and, somewhat shyly, asked if she could have his phone number. This surprised both Kim and her two friends, who watched as Seo asked for his number. Immediately, the other girls also asked for his number, visibly blushing. Kim couldn't believe it. Without even realizing it, he had completed all 3 rewards for his mission, which included a skill book, an item box, and a new title. After kindly giving his phone number to the girls, he checked his new skill, Sneaky Glance, which allowed him to gather information by observing someone. Although the skill was at a low level and temporarily locked, Kim found it quite intriguing, as he didn't know that skills could have levels. He wondered how he could improve them. Curious, he decided to test his new ability on his way home. When he tried it, he realized just how vast the world was and how much he still wanted to discover. The impact was so profound that, while using the skill on the girls, he imagined himself in a scene similar to a religious ceremony and felt a bit guilty considering his own beliefs. His second reward was a potion called Law of Stat Conservation, which allowed him to freely redistribute his stat points for 10 minutes. Kim never imagined such an item could exist and began to think about how to make the best use of it. His third reward was the title Number Collector, which he assumed gave him some special effect since his appearance stat increased by 10 points. Kim then allocated his remaining points to Strength, Power, and Control. With everything set, he decided to enter his first dungeon using the Minor Dungeon key, which could only be activated between 1 and 2 in the morning. Shortly after, a window appeared, welcoming him to the minor dungeon called Queen's Castle. Kim was transported to the women's dorms at the university, entering the dreams of the girls sleeping there. The system reminded him that he was in a dream, and that to complete the dungeon, he needed to conquer the queen within the time limit. To find clues about the queen's whereabouts, he had to talk to the escort knight, who was actually one of the girls from the earlier outing. As she slightly woke up, the girl noticed Kim beside her, while the system warned him that he only had 1 hour left. Jaya, confused, asked Kim what he was doing there. In his thoughts, Kim wondered if she was the same girl he went out with that afternoon and guessed that the system referred to her as the escort knight. Not entirely sure, he asked her if she knew anything about the queen. Jaya hesitated before answering, but eventually said yes, though she was reluctant to talk about another woman under the circumstances. She finally agreed to tell him, on the condition that he helped her purify her soul. Blushing, she asked if they could pray together. Kim didn't fully understand why she was making such requests, but since it was a dream, he saw no harm in playing along. He gently gave her a tender kiss. However, upon kissing her, he felt something incredibly vivid and pleasant. Unfazed, he took some bread she had saved and after tasting it, thought he could get addicted to it. In return, he used a special technique to help her relax. While doing so, he noticed the warmth of her soul, trapped by some kind of corruption. With no other choice, Kim started preparing the items needed for the prayer and informed her that he was about to begin reading the Bible. As he read, he remembered the first time he saw her, thinking she was cute, but now he realized how great her personality was and how kind-hearted she seemed, so much so that it was driving him crazy. Kim noticed that the corruption in her soul was gradually being purified. He leaned closer and whispered in her ear that he really liked her, causing her to hug him, confessing that she was also happy by his side. Watching the warmth of her soul expand as the corruption left, Kim decided to purify her completely with holy water. The girl was overjoyed and noticed the effect of his holy water on her soul, but didn't mind much, as she genuinely enjoyed praying by his side. Happily, she revealed the identity of the queen. It was Anseo, a nickname her friends gave her because of the number of boys who followed her around. Although Kim had already suspected it, he was still surprised. He then asked the girl where he could find her. Feeling a bit annoyed, she scolded him for wanting to go to another girl after having shared such a special moment with her. She then asked him directly if he was interested in Anseo. Kim wasn't sure how to respond and lied, saying he needed to tell her something important. The girl didn't seem fully convinced, but accepted his explanation, yawning a little as she believed him. Just as she was about to tell him where Anseo's room was, she suddenly began to feel extremely sleepy. Kim, eager to find out where to go next, noticed that his companion had fallen completely asleep. She was so deeply asleep that Kim wondered if it was even possible to fall asleep within a dream. He tried to wake her up, but soon realized it was useless. He then debated whether he should go look for Seo on his own when another voice spoke to him, saying that it knew where to find her. In exchange for the information, however, it asked him to revitalize its soul. The request left him confused, but the system warned him not to wake escort knight number 1 if he wanted to complete the dungeon quickly. Before moving on, Kim helped escort knight number 2 eat a yogurt cup, which made the girl laugh loudly. Kim worried that her laughter might wake up the first escort knight, but he also started eating his yogurt quickly, making her laugh even harder at the amusing scene. Despite the commotion, escort knight number 1 didn't wake up, and Kim felt lucky that she was such a heavy sleeper. Curious, he looked at the second escort knight to see if she had finished laughing, but still giggling. She pulled out her phone and showed him a picture of a puppy. She said she wanted the puppy for its own well-being, which made Kim blush. Even though only 38 minutes remained, they began to pray together. In his mind, Kim felt a sense of peace and comfort, although a wild idea crossed his mind. He quickly dismissed the thought and decided to focus on his main objective, conquering the queen before time ran out. However, the sound of their prayers could be a problem, so to reduce the noise, he kissed escort knight number 2, who seemed to enjoy the peacefulness of the moment as well. Even so, Kim knew he had to finish the prayer quickly. He started reading the Bible faster and faster. Just before the girl reached for some holy water, the system alerted him that escort knight number 1 had woken up. Seeing them together, she angrily asked what they were doing, leaving Kim speechless. Clearly upset, she accused him of being a womanizer. The system then informed Kim that he now had to convince both escorts to find the path of faith, or he wouldn't be able to reach the queen. With little time left, Kim watched as escort knight number 2 approached the first to calm her down, suggesting they pray the rosary together. To his surprise, escort knight number 1 agreed. Shocked, Kim wondered if this was happening because it was a dream, as praying with 2 girls like this wouldn't normally be so easy. He considered whether his increased stats before entering the dungeon were affecting the situation, but decided not to question it further. In the end, he managed to complete the prayer just in time, and the escorts showed him the way to Seo. They explained that he had to leave the room, turn right, and go to the end of the hallway, where Seo would be waiting for him. Meanwhile, Seo started to feel like she was waking up but quickly realized she was still dreaming. Embarrassed, she noticed she was wearing something quite revealing, but figured it was because she tended to have lucid dreams more often when she thought a lot about her day. She suspected this was connected to the date she had recently been on. At that moment, Kim walked into the room. Seo looked at him, trying her best to stay calm. Although she felt excited inside, she wondered if having this dream was because of her feelings for him. Seo shares that she used to be a quiet, almost invisible girl to others, with no contact with her classmates. She was, in every sense, what people today would call an otaku. Back then, Seo believed she would never experience romance, but one day when she arrived home, her mother told her that her tutor had arrived early, which surprised her. Rushing to greet him, she discovered it was Kim, her first love. As Seo moved closer to see what Kim was reading, even though he wasn't familiar with the manga, he found it interesting, and Seo, curious, asked if he liked that kind of thing. Kim, intrigued, explained that he found it on her desk and wanted to see what it was about. Although he suspected Seo wasn't studying properly because of it, she denied it. But deep down, she knew she never read manga at home. Seo explained that the little she knew about manga was from a movie she once watched, as she wasn't allowed to watch such things afterward. Kim noticed her sadness and suggested taking her to see a movie, which left her speechless. Seo thought it wouldn't be possible since she didn't have permission to go out, but Kim reassured her by saying he had a plan. He just gave her one condition: to get a perfect score on her next exam. Determined, Seo agreed and promised she would make him feel something for her. Just imagining that possibility made her genuinely happy. When the exam day came, Kim saw that Seo had passed with a perfect score, and she eagerly awaited for him to keep his promise. Kim then spoke to Seo's mom to see if his plan would work, and when he returned, he brought good news. They would meet the next day at 3 o'clock at the cinema. Seo arrived on time, feeling a bit shy because she thought her dress was a little short. Even so, Kim invited her in, buying too much popcorn and drinks before entering. Although Seo offered to help, she couldn't help but notice that, despite dressing up for him, Kim hadn't commented on her appearance. Curious, she asked him how he managed to convince her mom. Kim admitted that he lied, saying he was giving her extra classes outside of her house. As a result, Seo's mom believed they were in a lesson at that very moment. He also told her they'd need to spend more time outside next Saturday, which Seo found a bit unfair. Even though she said that, deep down she was thrilled. She knew she wasn't very social, but sharing common interests allowed her to get closer to him. The more she got to know Kim, the more she realized how much she liked him. Additionally, the Saturday lessons usually took place in a cafe. However, one weekend, her mom asked them to go out because she wanted to rest. Unfortunately, the cafe was too crowded to study, so Kim offered to continue the lesson at his apartment, which took Seo by surprise. She didn't expect anything special, but felt slightly disappointed when they actually just focused on studying. As they were leaving, Kim asked Seo if she had decided which university she wanted to attend. Seo confidently replied that she wanted to go to the same one as him. Kim advised her that, in that case, she would need to work hard in her studies. Seo, feeling sure of herself, believed that as long as she kept learning from him, she wouldn't have any issues. Her determination left Kim silent for a moment. Embarrassed, Seo didn't want him to notice, but Kim admitted he didn't know what to say. That night ended without any clear resolution. At his home, Kim had planned to confess his feelings once she graduated. Over time, he saw that the Saturday lessons were paying off and was certain that Seo would be able to get into his university if she continued like that. Seo also expressed her hopes, wishing Kim would continue teaching her in the future. However, at that moment, Kim apologized and explained that he would soon enlist in the military because he wanted to fulfill his responsibilities before entering university with her. This was something he had already decided and regretted having to say it. That was how Seo continued studying even after Kim left, determined to see him again someday. While her classmates celebrated getting into university, Seo decided to make a change in her life because she wanted Kim to see her as a woman when they reunited. And so, we return to the present, where Seo is now the queen of the dungeon, making Kim blush as he saw how beautiful she looked. However, The system informed him that he had to conquer the queen within the given time to complete the dungeon, as only 24 minutes were left. At that moment, neither of them knew what to say, and Kim thought he was lucky to be alone with her. He was relieved, worried that another escort knight might suddenly appear by her side. As he looked at Seo, he understood why she was the queen, especially because of how beautiful she looked. He noticed her dress and thought that this time would be different from previous encounters. Maybe she was the dungeon boss, although he wasn't sure. Deciding to take the initiative, he used his seducer's eye ability. Just then, Seo hugged him, and a bit shy, asked Kim if he truly didn't remember her. The scene flashed back to the past when Seo used to practice how she would speak to Kim if they ever met again, or even if fate brought them together by chance. When she finally saw him, all her courage vanished, and nervously, she could barely return his greeting. But this time was different. Now she felt a renewed confidence despite her nervousness. Seo insisted on knowing if Kim truly didn't remember her, pointing out that they had met long ago. However, he misunderstood, thinking she meant the conference room encounter. Seo shook her head with a smile and jokingly called him a fool. She reminded him that a long time ago, she had told him she wanted to attend the same university as him, and that was why she was there. It was then that Kim finally recognized her and couldn't help but be shocked at how beautiful she had become. Seo, unsure if he was serious, blushed while Kim cursed himself for saying it out loud. Despite that, she felt happy because all her efforts had finally paid off. At that moment, Seo felt the chalice glow and brush against her stomach, causing Kim to immediately apologize, embarrassed. But she smiled and told him it wasn't necessary, admitting that she was really happy because he finally saw her as a woman. Seo had dreamed of this moment for a long time, and now, even if it was just a dream, she wanted to share a mass with Kim. Seeing the chalice, she felt both surprised and worried, unsure how to handle it properly. Meanwhile, Kim didn't fully understand the situation, especially as he watched Seo holding the chalice with a look of joy. Even though he felt the need to hurry, he decided to focus on reading the Bible. For Seo, the feeling growing inside her was unfamiliar, but she assumed that's how it felt to pray for the first time. Kim, however, was experiencing a mixture of very different emotions. When Seo admitted she felt like she was going a little crazy, Kim curiously asked what she meant, but he was so caught up in the moment that he seemed extremely relaxed. He couldn't stop wondering if Seo had always been in love with him. Although he doubted whether it was right to share that mass, he remembered that it was just a dream. Unable to resist any longer, he kissed her, mesmerized by how stunning she looked. Time was running out quickly. With only 36 seconds left, Kim said he would get the holy water, and Seo softly asked him to purify her soul. Just as Seo felt her sins being cleansed, she held Kim's face and confessed that she loved him, which made him blush deeply. Then, the time ran out, and with it, the dungeon was completed, granting him his rewards. Upon waking from his dream, Kim was lost in thought, replaying Seo's final words in his mind.